Welcome back to Bridges. We are so glad to have you this second segment. If you were with us the first segment, you know that we are talking about the amazing things that are happening in the Old South End with our guests today, Roberto Torres. My tongue did get stuck that time. He is the director of the Northwest Ohio Chamber of Commerce, and we have Giselle Mendoza, who is the executive director of Adelante. We went to break talking about your interactions with corporations and how this is such a great thing for the entire community.
Well, you know, one of the things that I had pointed earlier, and I used the term very proudly when I said immigrant, because that is a part of our history. And so oftentimes when we have programs, even at the city level or the county, or even in corporate America, there's programs that are established for minority outreach. And what happens is in our community, we see ourselves as Latinos and not necessarily minority. And so what ends up happening is some of those programs don't actually translate to our community.
To what you're doing. You know what, now I so want to talk about that, but I won't because it's not the topic of today's show. But we really need to come back and talk about where that sort of stuff breaks down. I mean, you know, why not minority?
Well,
why Latino and not minority?
And I think
because you know what my I gotta tell you, okay, but I promise we won't talk about this today. Because where I immediately go is, oh, is that because minority is traditionally defined as African American?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is.
Oh, see, wrong answer. All right, let's move on, and we'll talk about it next time. But we really, because I think this is really part of the problem.
Well, and I
really
think,
do.
Yeah, and I think the message I'm trying to convey is to corporate America and to our city and all, is that this picture of a Latino community is really an economic issue, and that corporations and institutions really ought to be partnering with the Latino community based on an economic.
Well, it's all an economic issue, though, don't you think? All of it is an economic issue. I mean, you know, you talk about the increase in poverty, the lack of education, you know, the high number of dropouts. It all translates into economics at the end of the day, which is why I think it is critical for people to get behind these initiatives, whether you call them minority initiatives or African American and Latino and Asian, whatever you call them. Because at the end of the day, this is a country that's based on capitalism. It is all about economics.
And Robert kept saying investing, and that's one of the things that I keep getting on my soapbox. It's an investment on our community and our population. You know, who is really putting forth time, effort, and then money? You know, and you talk about corporations in the past. Adelante has been around for 19 years. We're going on 20 years, you know, and when you say who has been there, it's us, you know, and so now we need that corporate support, you know, so we can be that helping corporations take whatever they're offering to our Latino communities. When you say the number game, you know, play the number game, it's the fastest growing minority, or however you want to call it, you know, population in the United States. And when you look at the census, do your homework, you know, it's like pay attention to the growing population.
Oh, and folks do, many folks do, and I think that's where the power is, quite frankly. I think the power is in the fact that Latinos are the fastest growing population, and is going to be you're going to have more folks of that heritage than anybody else in the country in a very short time, and I think that's amazing power, and you see lots of people starting to respond to that power. But listen, okay, so I'm the devil's advocate for a second here, and I'm some guy sitting in my little chair with I don't want to be stereotypical here, I'm just some guy, you know, listening to this, and I'm saying, oh Lord, here they go again. You know, why can't people just do it on their own? Why I walk 3 miles every day to in the snow to school. Why can't they just pull themselves up and get it done and stop asking?
Well, my approach is that we haven't asked, and thus far the Latino community has done it on its own with support from some of the corporate entities. But if you look at the San Marcos story or any other immigrant that comes here and they start their own business, they do it out of their own money, and then it grows, and next thing you know, there's 3 or 4 of their businesses. You talk to a banker and you say, wouldn't you wanted to invest in that at the very start? And so, and the other thing I look at is how many years, decades, have we wanted to revive Dorr Street, Monroe Street, LaGrange, Main Street,
Sure.
you know, all the arteries that come into downtown Toledo.
Right.
And the one that we haven't yet done a program on is Broadway, which connects River Road, which connects, you know, the historically
It's still a core, that's right.
still
It's core.
a very
Right.
vital artery
Right.
from the Toledo Zoo and River Road to the downtown area,
Right.
where the stadium is and where you have downtown activity. That's one corridor. If we can get that right, and we can do it right, then all of a sudden it becomes a roadmap how to do all the other corridors. So there is some real benefit to actually taking this model and capitalizing on the people who live there, capitalizing on the institutions that live in that community.
So is there a master plan?
That's what we're getting at. That's where we're talking to the Port Authority, and that's what
So
we're
it's
talking
not
to the
yet
University of Toledo.
developed, you're pulling it together
Right.
now.
The University of Toledo right now is taking great interest in being able to partner with us to make that happen. Because obviously everything has to start with the master plan. The very first thought of that happened with the 2020 plan. And if you notice in the 2020 plan, there's no other community that has. Giselle mentioned the bright colors in South Toledo.
Right.
There's no other community in the Toledo area that allows for all those bright colors to be utilized, with exception to Broadway and the South Toledo community. The reason why we chose to do that is we envisioned back then that this was going to be a Hispanic corridor.
Well, what are you doing with to include the neighbors that live in that area who are not Hispanic? That is really, while it certainly is an area that's been identified with Latinos, it is an area that's primarily Caucasian and primarily low income, Caucasian. So what are you doing to include them in this process? Anything? Thoughts about that?
Well, any program that we have, our doors are open. Anybody that comes in and walks in, and actually, even with like the VITA, the tax season, we had a lot of folks that didn't even know we were there, and it piqued an interest. On April 17th, we're going to do canvassing to welcome, spring and go and meet the neighbors, because what we do, it's for our community. If black, white, whatever color, they can come in and do our services. We have, our website, our Facebook page. We make calls. We do, like I said, canvassing. So we want to include our community, our neighbors. We have other agencies that we also partner with, so we can offer the same services at our agency and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's not about just Latino.
But Giselle, you know why people could possibly feel that they were being excluded.
Absolutely, and it's in the name, and it's like and you have to speak Spanish. You don't have to speak Spanish. We do serve our population, so when we do outreach, we try to reach our Latino population. But we're at the schools, and we do after-school programs to all the kids. If you sign up and you participate, you can be part of our program.
Okay.
Likewise, the Hispanic Chamber is in open membership, so we have a number of African American companies that are actually members of the Hispanic Chamber. And the reason for that being is that what we're looking at is the market. So it doesn't matter if you're an African American company that's targeting the Latino community, then you need to be with the chamber, because that's the market that we're going after. We're going after a market that nobody else is actually tapping into or directing their efforts on. And so whatever the company is, and we have a number of them that are partnering with some of our Latino businesses. In fact, there are some initiatives that we're working with the Black Chamber of Commerce on, and those are things that we have common understanding and interest in. And so I don't think I think the thinking has to shift from, is it about just serving Latinos, or is it about capturing that Latino market that's out there? Is it about capturing that economic opportunity that we have with the Latino community?
Yeah, and certainly with your background, and people should know that Mr. Torres has a really strong background in these particular issues, working with the city and City of Toledo in this capacity at one time.
Correct.
As I recall. But I think it's the way you phrase the issue. I really do. When you phrase the issue in terms of capturing the market because it's of economic benefit,
Right.
I think it's a different conversation than it is when you say this is all about serving Latinos. I think it gets to be a different conversation.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have that same discussion with many Latinos in our community.
Yeah.
When we talk about the target ought to be the city of Toledo and the surrounding area, it ought to be Northwest Ohio. That's who we're looking at serving, and it's not about Latino people. The emphasis may be that it's a Latino theme,
Absolutely.
but the opportunity to interact is everyone.
I want to talk about this so much more, so you guys will have to come back over the next month or so we can finish this conversation. We have just a couple minutes left, and I'm going to give those to you to talk about your fundraisers.
You know, we've got, we can have fun too while we're doing economic development, and some of the things that we have coming up. Our good friend Lisa Canales,
Yeah.
that you know from the Washington Local School Board,
Right.
you know, she has a wonderful story about the birth of her daughter and how that encouraged her to start a food giving and basket giving program during the holidays, and started off very small, and now it's been citywide, and she has an opportunity now to really launch it.
And there's
Yeah.
an Angels Mia.
So there's Rock the Yacht over at the Toledo Yacht Club on May the 2nd. And so Lisa is inviting everyone to come out and support that event. It's a fundraiser for the Angel Project.
Okay.
We're calling it City of Angels, and it's going to be a really fun event. So we invite everyone over there.
And we'll get that information to you, not this show, but
Yeah.
we'll have it on upcoming shows so that you can come very quickly.
And then we talked about some of the Mexican restaurants. Well, for those people that enjoy the margaritas at these restaurants, one of the things
That's gonna be there?
one of the things that we're doing is we're having a margarita tasting competition.
10 seconds, you got.
Yeah, and it's going to be over at the Dirty Bird on June the 19th. And so we'll
Oh my
have more
gosh.
information out on that.
Margaritas, oh my goodness, we got to go. We'll be back in just a second.